I think it's also important to put on the table here that your example is good, but we're talking about two really different products. The kinds of things Demand or Examiner.com versus the kinds of things that we're talking about. You know, there's the food industry, but there's all kinds of food within the food industry. So there's the news and information industry, but there's all kinds. So Demand Media is on one business path. We're on a very different business path. So they may, you know, they really are going after more the eyeballs model. We're really going after more the other models that we talked
about. Well, you know, the whole underpinning of what we're talking about also is that this is the social value. I mean, the role of the press, democracy, all that. I mean, it may sound hooey, but it's true. And more people like that. And the reality is, journalists, you know, are eliminated in lots of places because of what they represent. So there's that value. How do we tell everybody or market that and create that as part of the value of the brand proposition? So again, we're in this moment of a lot of change. So that's, you know, it's complicated. And I know when I talk to VCs, they don't understand also that the foundations don't care about profit at all. I mean, because, you know, when someone will give you $1 million, they go to it. It's really getting people to understand what this is about, and it's complicated.
Right. It just strikes me that sorry, just to finish the thought. You really try to preserve an institution that never really it actually objected to being customer driven.
Right. It was never customer.
And it's hard to create business.
Yeah, it's the most expensive product out of journal. Investigative reporting was the thing that, you know, when I worked at the Inquirer, we had 630 people in the newsroom when I was the editor. We had a budget of $75 million. You know, there were people who didn't do a story, Bartlett and Steele, you know their names. Yeah. Right? We were, you know, but what they did was incredibly valuable to the brand, but not valuable in terms of hitting the bottom line.
So the question I have for you is, what choice do we have? The fact is this, that we are trying to allow market economics to help dictate how we think about things, but we are here to fulfill a social value.
The closest to me, and you know, Rich Gingrich, who's CEO of Salon, is a really interesting character, and I've talked to him a lot about this, because I think they're to me one of the best kind of pieces in point of someone who's really got quality writers. But what his challenge is always to gently direct sort of the editorial focus towards things that have quality business cases behind them. And you know, that's a balancing act, but it's closer to what you're talking about for being pure, you know, kind of ad-law driven, because I think that doesn't fit.
No, I don't think any of us are thinking that.
And the question, and to your point, I think looking at your product as to a channel, part of the question is, well, at some point, if the only way to survive is to write things that the channel is demanding, you're going down that path.
So, yeah. And I think both of us, if we wanted to do that, could have done that successfully.
We've got a couple of comments.
You talked about, with the shift to digital media, that there will hopefully be a less reliance of needing a central publication and a publisher to go to. And I agree with you. I think eventually we will get to that point, but I know right now there's a lot of problems that sourcing you trust, who it is, trying to, the context of the story is still incredibly important. And I'm wondering, how do you think a network like Laura's that aims to be the producer of news, but then publish it in other forums, whether it's giving it to the Daily Camera or the Denver Post, how does she leverage her identity as the Rocky Mountain Investigative News Network?
Well,
she's not the one.
We have the same struggle, you know, because our stories appear in papers in California, or on KQED radio or television. It's California Watch, a project of the Center for Investigative Reporting. If we're in the Washington Post, it'll be a byline. How many people look at bylines? I don't know. But this, you know, but the publishers, right? They understand the value. I know that at the Chronicle in San Francisco, they did a survey, and it really shocked me at the end of the year. And they said, "What else do you want in the paper?" And people actually, they had a much higher number than I expected. Said, "We want more California Watch stories," which was great for us, so people actually noticed. But I think this is, you know, a challenge, and that's why I mentioned, you know, I don't think I'm smart enough. I know I'm not to understand how to use, especially in the new way content's moving, brand and market it. And that's going to be crucial to the piece of sustainability. And it's an issue we're all going to have. But I don't have the answer, but we're in a very similar model. But I know that the publishers, our customers, really value it. And I'm not sure when you get 100 comments or 500 comments on the Gate or the San Diego Union or even on Huffington Post when our stories run. I don't know if the people commenting realize it's a CIR or California Watch story. They make, because the people see a story and they read it in their paper or they hear it on their station. So that's a challenge for us.
I'm going to break some news right now. We just welcomed to iNews board an expert in brand marketing, because this has been, not because of this, but it's excellent because this has been one of the questions that we had. Bill Weintraub, you're tweeting.
I have a couple questions. One, how did you decide what to charge? I mean, because it's a little bit random. Did you?
Well, it wasn't ever, I mean, us quick, we looked, we didn't really understand the number, but basically with newspapers, we looked at traditional model of circulation, big market, little market. Same with TV stations. And we went from last year ad hoc one-offs to this year we have memberships where they're actually paying a flat fee for fewer stories and more money, because we established the value. And also we had to understand, we understood the cycle of newspaper budgeting and TV stations where they're budgeting, you know, sometimes 6, 8, 9 months ahead of time. And we established value with low prices, and then we were able to come back and probably this year our revenue for content will be 4 or 5 times what it was the first year, because we were charging more and they're willing to pay it. We established the value, but it wasn't scientific.
I wouldn't call ours scientific either, but you know, sort of the frame of reference was, okay, we want to be a fraction of what they'd have to pay if they hired an investigative reporter, which we knew none of them were going to do. I mean, keep in mind, they're at this terrible point. So we knew it needed to be a fraction of that, or they wouldn't consider it. But then we, just what I said a moment ago, we looked at what they were paying for other things. So, you know, somebody like the Colorado Springs Gazette pays $36,000 a year for the New York Times news service. Well, wouldn't you rather have local news?
The other thing, again, from our customers, when we started, you know, it was the height of the recession, all their freelance budgets had been cut. And so there was, you know, dealing with a customer in peril. So again, I don't think, you know, that our core market, our core customer isn't necessarily going to be newspapers in 5 years. I think it's going to be a whole different model, and it's going to change. And the other thing we do is, like, if we work with a big broadcast, if we deliver broadcast quality video, we'll get that's where most of the revenue is. But if we work with a front line, they'll pay us a lot of money for production costs. And that's what I said earlier, it's the same story repurposed, so it's not just a one-off fee. You can take it and generate multiple pieces of revenue. Is it covering the cost yet? No. But again, what I'm talking about, nobody was doing a year ago. And there wasn't another nonprofit doing what we're doing now, and in terms of trying to sustain it. And we just took the plunge.
Okay,
We'll
and
all
then
be
just
doing
one
it.
kind of